The highest scores on IQ tests procrastinate more than average, not less. Not slightly more. Studies on this have found smarter students often delay tasks longer than their lower-scoring classmates. That shouldn't make sense. If procrastination were just about laziness or poor planning, the smartest people in the room should be the best at avoiding it. They aren't. And once you understand why, you'll never think about procrastination as a discipline problem again. Here's the story we usually tell ourselves. Smart people procrastinate because they're overconfident. They think they can finish the essay in one night, so they wait until one night is all they have left. That explanation feels right. It's also incomplete, and it misses the actual mechanism happening underneath. The real reason is stranger, and it has almost nothing to do with confidence. It has to do with how a highly capable brain evaluates threat. And once you see the pattern, you'll start noticing it everywhere in your own life. Not just with deadlines, but with any task where the outcome matters to your sense of who you are. Here's the part most people never hear. Procrastination isn't primarily a time management failure. It's an emotion management strategy. Specifically, it's your brain avoiding a very particular kind of discomfort, the risk of finding out you're not as capable as you believe. For someone who has built their identity around being smart, capable, or high-achieving, starting a hard task carries a hidden cost that a less identity-invested person doesn't feel as strongly. If you try your absolute best and the result is still mediocre, that's data. That's evidence against the story, "I'm the smart one." But if you wait until the last possible night and the result is mediocre, you have a built-in excuse sitting right there. I could have done better if I'd started earlier. The identity stays protected either way. This is sometimes called self-handicapping, and it's one of the best documented patterns in procrastination research. The brain isn't lazy. It's running risk management on your self-image. And delay is the strategy it reaches for, because delay comes with a built-in alibi. That's why the smartest people in a group are often not the ones who procrastinate least. They're the ones with the most identity riding on the outcome, which means they have the most to protect, which means the alibi of "I ran out of time" is worth more to them than it is to someone with less invested in being seen as capable. Here's where it gets counterintuitive. You'd expect the fix to be just have more confidence. It's the opposite. The people who procrastinate least aren't the most confident. They're the ones who've separated their self-worth from any single outcome. They can hand in mediocre work and think that attempt wasn't good enough, instead of "I'm not good enough." That's a completely different sentence, and it removes the entire reason to delay. This also explains something that confuses a lot of people. Why procrastination often gets worse, not better, the more capable someone becomes. Early in a skill or a career, mistakes are expected, so there's less identity at stake. As competence grows and expectations rise, from yourself and everyone around you, every task starts carrying more evidence weight about who you are. The stakes on your self-image go up even when the actual task doesn't get harder. And so the avoidance gets stronger exactly when you'd expect it to get weaker. You can see this pattern show up in very ordinary places, not just big deadlines. The student who won't start the essay until midnight, even with 2 weeks of warning. Not because they don't care, but because as long as it isn't finished, it isn't a real test of their ability yet. The talented employee who sits on a proposal for weeks, polishing it in their head, but never sending a draft. Because an unfinished proposal can still be a great one, a submitted, evaluated one can't. The person who's been meaning to start a business, a book, a workout routine for years, because a plan that never launches can never technically fail. In every case, the task isn't the threat. The evaluation is the threat. And the brain's solution is simple. If you never fully show up to be evaluated, you can never be told you weren't enough. So if the cause is identity protection, the fix isn't a better planner or a stricter schedule. Those treat the symptom. The actual fix is lowering the stakes attached to the outcome before you start, which sounds abstract, so here's what it looks like in practice. First, separate the draft from the verdict. Give yourself explicit permission to produce something bad on the first attempt. Not as a throwaway phrase. Actually decide, before you start, that version 1 is not allowed to be judged. This removes the exact threat the brain is avoiding. Second, shrink the task until the identity risk disappears. Write the report feels like a referendum on your competence. Write one paragraph doesn't. This isn't just about making the task easier. It's about making it small enough that a bad attempt says nothing meaningful about your ability, which removes the entire reason your brain wanted to delay. Third, notice the specific moment you feel the urge to delay and name what's actually happening. Not, I don't feel like it. That's the surface story. The real sentence underneath is usually closer to, I'm not ready to find out if this is good enough. Naming it accurately doesn't make the feeling disappear, but it does make it much harder for your brain to keep running the same alibi-generating strategy on autopilot. The next time you catch yourself delaying something you're genuinely capable of doing, don't ask, why am I so lazy? Ask a more accurate question, what am I protecting myself from finding out? That question won't feel as comfortable, but it's the one that actually explains what's happening. And it's the only one that leads to a fix that sticks instead of another to-do list app you'll stop using in 2 weeks.